All right, well, hello and welcome, folks. Sorry about the odd start. And yeah, today we're here to celebrate the Learn Power BI Scholarship winners. Yeah, I had some technical issues, but yeah, glad to be here. Let's see who is online. And I see Chaitanya is here. Frank Wendelden is here. Papa Chaudhary is here. Good to see you guys. And Syed says hello from New Jersey. And Sandeep had a question earlier. We'll try our best to get it. Although today's special session is really about celebrating something big in our program. All right, so let's get started. I'll make sure the stream is kind of working. Hold on, guys. I'm trying to. Oh, almost ready. All right, there we go. So, well, a good place to start, I guess, is the Learn Power BI family. And this started about 2 years ago as a beta. And yeah, I wasn't sure what this is gonna what's gonna happen, right? And we started off with just a small group, and now we have grown to 1,000 plus amazing folks all over the world. And I feel so lucky and blessed to be serving my students in this way. That's certainly been quite an experience. But of course, we are about to kickstart a new beta, and this is for our Learn Power BI scholarships. And first of all, I want to thank every one of you who submitted their applications. We got over 100 applications from all over the world. And I want to make it clear that this is not just a celebration of, the folks who were selected. This is really celebrating everybody, right? This is celebrating all of us because really we are all connected. Now we may or may not feel that way, but we are. I mean, frankly, thinking that you're alone in this world is like thinking. Imagine if a cell in our body thought that it was alone. That would be weird. No, you're not alone. You're part of this bigger structure. And the same way, we're not alone. We're not disconnected. We're all connected at some level on this earth as part of this humanity. So celebrating ourselves is like celebrating others, and celebrating others is the same as celebrating us. So that's what we are here for today. So again, we're gonna use them and meet some of these people, hear some of their stories. But I'm sure their stories are gonna echo something in your own past or something in your own heart. So yeah, here are the amazing folks, which I'm again happy to be serving as part of the Learn Power BI Scholarship Program. Against a beta. I just sent them an email a few days ago saying, "Hey guys, expect this to be a little bit rough around the edges." You know what? I'm gonna put myself in a corner here. There we go. All right. So, but yeah, I'm excited about what we get to create together with this group. And if the Learn Power BI program is any indication, I mean, that started off with a handful of people and now has grown to 1,000 plus. We don't really know, right, what's going to happen with the Learn Power BI scholarship, but I'm excited to be walking on this road. I'm excited to have this opportunity to impact these lives because you've probably heard me say this that my goal isn't to teach anybody Power BI. My goal is to change their lives, right? And Power BI just happens to be my excuse to do it. All right, so let's. I'm gonna pause just really quick and just make sure things are working. All right, Shaibu is here. Great. Benoit is here from Quebec. Shraddha is here. Good to see you, Shraddha, from Sydney. Chaitanya says hello from DC. Matthew says hi from Canada. And Robin is here from Houston. So I love this photograph. Carl, thank you so much for sending this. And Carl was, I think, the so we I spoke to each and every person of this group before we kind of officially kickstarted the group. Uh, and Carl was the last person I spoke to. He's based out of Philippines, and certainly family came up quite a bit in his discussion. I think at one point I asked him like, "What's the most important thing?" And I think he said his wife. So no surprise that he sent this photograph. This is the one that he chose to share. So yeah, certainly kind of steeped in family values. He has his background in accounting, I believe. He worked in quite a few different places, but travel agency, and yeah, he's always been around Excel accounting. There's no surprise. And yeah, now he's looking for kind of his next big adventure, and yeah, so we're going to be exploring that with it in this program. But at one point, I asked him about his biggest strengths, and Carl is a very humble guy, I would say, right? So yeah, I mean, he's very kind of yeah down key. He's not like gung ho and talking about himself. That's not Carl. So yeah, he very casually talked about, oh yeah, I mean, hardworking, and he said two other things. And again, very, almost self-deprecating, right? Almost like, yeah, yeah, just like everybody. I work hard just like everybody. So I called him out on that, and I said, well, I don't know. I mean, yeah, sure. Everybody thinks they work hard, right? But you brought this up as the first thing. Maybe this is important to you in some way. And tell me a story. Tell me a story which relates to any of these things, like the three qualities you mentioned. And the story he told me was this. So Carl mentioned that how he's 5 feet 3 inches tall. Now he's an eager basketball player. He had mentioned that earlier. And basketball is quite popular in the Philippines. And he plays as part of a team. And well, 5'3" is not a tall height for basketball. And of course, that's almost a disadvantage. But what Carl wanted to make sure was that he was not letting his teammates down. That when they passed the ball to him, they would know that it's in good hands, right? So maybe there was a disadvantage because of his height, but he overcame that by showing up for practice at 3 a.m. when everybody else showed up at 6. Now, when he shared that story with me, frankly, I sat there stunned for a minute, and I just went quiet because it's such a powerful story. And the funny thing is that I think, right? I mean, I don't think Carl realizes that what's in him and what he's capable of. And again, right? I mean, this is not just Carl's story. This is a lot of us, or many of us, right? I mean, we don't see our own greatness. There's this great quote that I love, which talks not about, we're not, our biggest fear. Oh God, I'm gonna have to pull it up. But what our biggest fear is not that we're weak and we're incapable. Our biggest fear is that we're super powerful, right? That we don't realize that we're what we're capable of. And that's kind of what I heard in Carl's story, right? So again, I mean, when he was mentioning his qualities, it was like, yeah, I work hard, right? But then he drops a story on me, and I'm like, whoa, dude, mind blown, right? I mean, this is crazy. This is insane. And again, we are on one thing as we are in another. I mean, if Carl brings that spirit to basketball, do you think he's going to bring a different spirit to work, to Power BI? No, he's not. We are in one thing as we're in another. So yeah, that was Carl's story, and yeah, and again, I'm excited, folks, that what would we create together? All right, let's move on. Talk about the next amazing person, Monse, and I love this photograph too, because this thread is a key thread in her story, and I'm sure Monse has more stories of which impacted her life and shaped her life. But one of the key stories that she shared with me, and which I found most powerful, and I'm going to share with you today as well on Monsi's behalf, is about her going to Ireland. Now, she talked to me about how, from a very early age, she had a dream. She had this goal of going abroad, going outside of Mexico to a different country and spending time there. And she was very focused on this. In fact, to a point where she worked in, I think, the finance group, and she talked about that. That's where she crossed paths with Power BI. And she talked about her excitement when she first kind of encountered that tool. She saw the possibility of what what it could do, and she worked with that tool for a while. And of course, she had been around reporting and analysis longer than that. But again, her dream was calling. So she had this dream of going abroad, and she had actually been working up. I think she worked for like 7 years, and she was saving money for this trip, saving money to be able to send herself abroad. And she chose to do that by pursuing a higher education program. And of course, she looked at different places, and she picked Ireland. And if you think about it, right? I mean, so folks, I come from India, and for me, I would say, at least the language barrier wasn't that much when I moved to US, because, well, that's one advantage of being ruled by the British for 400 years. Everybody, had to learn English, and we still do, even though the British have left, right? So, but for Monse, the language barrier was there, which can be huge. But of course, I've gone through all the other stuff. Man, you land in a new country, and it's all those small things. Like, I remember the first time I made a joke here that people laughed at, and I was like, "Whoa, I'm an American now." I mean, I don't know. It's obviously I'm trying to be funny, but yeah, I mean, I didn't get the humor. I mean, I wouldn't get their jokes, they wouldn't get mine, and it was just very different. Again, it's the small things that get you, which remind you again and again that you're an alien. Um, Now, of course, I've been here long enough, and I've been longer here in U.S. now than all my years growing up in India. So things have changed, but I remember that transition can be hard. The first year was really hard. So yeah, it's no easy thing, but of course it's an adventure as well, and that's what Monse was seeking. So yeah, she spent her time there. She completed her degree. She talked about working as a waitress there just so she could support herself through education, pay the tuition, right? And she talked about how scenic and beautiful it was, and it was such an adventure. And now she's back in Mexico, and yeah, you're gonna hear this theme in one other student as well, where they went out but then came back because there was a connection, maybe destiny you can call it. They're meant to serve the people around you, right? So she's back, but I mean, think about it, right? I mean, she's young, right? I mean, at the age I'm at, I can definitely call her young. So uh, that's what I said to Monty. That imagine what you have done at such a young age. You had this big dream which seemed unachievable, right? I mean, in fact, I'm sure there were times when she questioned her dream. Don't we all do? Right? I mean, who am I to dream that? Right? I mean, look at me, look around me. I mean, nobody else has done it. Who am I to dream that big? How dare I? We question our dreams. Hey, now that's part of it. That happens to all of us, right? That's, so I always say that there's a price to success which most people are not willing to pay. And the price to success is your fear and self-doubt. That's the currency you need to pay in. So I'm sure there was a lot of fear and self-doubt as Monse thought about this dream, but she made it true. And again, you are in one thing as you are in another. You are in one thing as you're in another. I mean, if you can give birth to a dream, right? Cradle it in your arms and make it come true, right? What's to stop you from the next dream and the next big dream and the next big dream? It's nothing. right? We are the ones who prison ourselves, who stop ourselves. So that's Monse's story. And this is a duo. So it's like, funny how we counted. I mean, we wanted to give, so we wanted, this is a beta, so we wanted to keep it a small group. And we wanted to select five members for the scholarship. But this one is a double. And this one is a fascinating story. I mean, wow, this is like our, well, yeah, maybe a Learn Power BI or Power BI love story in some ways. So I haven't spoken to Pavel actually yet. I will. I'm looking forward to that. So I spoke to Olga, and Olga, God, where do I start with the story? So, yeah, so um, Olga is an English teacher in Belarus. Now, she has a deep background. She was actually studying world economics, and she was so focused and dedicated to it that she got her undergrad degree, she got her postgraduate or graduate degree, and then she was pursuing her PhD. And she actually spent 7 years working on her thesis. She unfortunately had to give that up, to stop that, because of health issues. And if not for the health issues, she would have gotten her PhD in economics, which is pretty freaking awesome, right? Um, and then, of course, well, so certainly she didn't get a thesis, but I'm not sure at the PhD level or maybe earlier. Well, that's where they met each other. And I think they've been together for 13 years now. They have twins, 7-year-old daughters, which sounds awesome, right? And yeah, an old guy's now kind of teaching English. So of course, I was kind of curious, like, hey, what's the Power BI connection? Well, that comes from Pavel again, who wasn't on the call. I was talking to Olga, but she talked about how Pavel has been a consultant and has been helping companies with this stuff, and of course, Power BI, how he has ramped up on Power BI in the past few years, and his enthusiasm about Power BI has rubbed off on Olga. And she talked about how she attended maybe I think a Power BI user group, and she witnessed the power of Power BI, right? That so whoever the presenter was, they were talking about Power BI and its capabilities, and she was paying some attention to the speaker, but she was also watching the folks in the audience, and she was watching their reaction. And she's like, wow, so these were managers from all over different places and directors and so forth. And they were all like, that wide-eyed look and like, wow, that's possible. So Olga and Pavel kind of that got Olga excited about that. Now, of course, folks, what we what we talk about is sometimes I hear a lot from people where they say that, Avi, but I'm not a techie or I'm not a developer, and it just they feel like that's going to hold them back. That's going to be a disadvantage. But you've probably heard me say this line before: your strengths are your weaknesses. Your weaknesses are your strengths. Right. So just let's just stay there for a bit. Um, think about the technologists, the smart people, right? The developers, the IT folks. What have they given us? I mean, they've given us a broken system. They've given us a BI system which doesn't belong to the business, right? Business intelligence no longer belongs to the business. They are outcasts, right? I mean, business users have to go with a begging bowl to IT, give me a report, and maybe they get it in 3 months or maybe they don't, right? That's a broken system. I'm not saying that's everywhere, but many places, almost all the companies that I've worked for. Now, we have an opportunity to change, but guess what? The change is not going to come from the technologists. It's going to come from all of us, the business users, because business intelligence belongs to the business. That's the right home for business intelligence. So again, you might be thinking that it's your weakness, right? That I'm not a techie, I'm not a developer, but I think that's going to be your strength. And of course, that's what I said to Olga. I said, yep, I mean, never, don't discount, right, your what you already have. So sometimes people feel like they're starting from zero and they think of themselves as that, yep, I'm starting out, I'm a beginner, I'm a rookie. But what you're doing is you're throwing away all of your experiences, your professional experiences and your life experiences. So of course, for Olga, the discussion we had was that, look, I mean, with economics, you went all the way to almost getting a PhD. That's pretty phenomenal. And economics is so much about data. So you've been around data. You're going to be comfortable around data, no doubt about that. And of course, now with Power BI, you can kind of, who knows what you can bring to that community, to how you can serve the companies and individuals who are in that field. So we're excited about that. But the one thing that was loud and clear about Olga, I think we were talking about kind of her strengths, was that she just doesn't give up, right? She said, hey, I always finish what I start. And she actually talked about her heartbreak, how hard it was to make that decision when she quit the PhD program. She said, that's the only thing that I've ever quit in my life. And it was the hardest decision that I took. And only she was forced to do that because of health reasons. Otherwise, she wouldn't have. But in spite of having those health issues, I mean, she wanted to do it. And that's why it was a hard decision. So again, folks, we are in one thing as we are in another. If that's the spirit that Olga carries within her, that's going to serve her anywhere she goes. I mean, whatever she touches. I mean, it could be Power BI, it could be something else. Robert. So Robert is based out of Kenya, and it's uncanny the number of connections we had. So for one, I think we were talking about like interests outside of work, and Robert mentioned hiking. And I would say that maybe that's not surprising. I mean, Kenya, of course, that's one place I've always wanted to go. It's I've seen photos, I've heard stories. So yeah, but yeah, that's a connection. And of course, folks who know me, I have this crazy goal this year to hike an elevation gain of 100,000 feet, and I've been hiking pretty much every week. And not just that, Robert had actually studied in India. And that was an interesting connection. So he talked about the university in Pune where he had gone and so forth. But now Robert is back in Kenya because he has a connection there. And again, I said the same thing about Monsi. So folks, um, yeah, I mean, I think we all have a destiny. I think we have a destiny to the lives we're going to impact. And if you're not doing that, then yeah, maybe you're not serving your purpose in life, right? So I think it's Picasso's quote. Hopefully, I can get it right. But um, uh, oh God, the first line is that the goal of life is to figure out your purpose. Um, oh, I'm not gonna get it right. But it's something about that. Once you find your mission, then yeah, you gotta kind of serve others. So Robert talked about that, and folks, and again, I mean, success is relative, right? So Robert came back, and he's like a sales analyst in a company there, and he has a long way to go, and I'm sure he's going to achieve greater heights. But what I loved about Robert was that he talked about others. He talked about helping others. He talked about how he felt that he was incredibly lucky. He said so when he came back to his hometown and he looked around, and others that he had gone to school with, they were in a very different circumstance, many of them. And he kind of asked that question like, why am I different, right? I mean, why did I get to go here, get an education, and then go on to get a job and so forth, right? I can provide for myself, for my family, whereas others didn't. And the unfortunate truth in this world is that it sometimes is a game of chance. And of course, Warren Buffett, I think, calls it the womb lottery, right? And I think in his book, he talks about how if he was born in China, he wouldn't be the Warren Buffett we know, right? I mean, yeah, I mean, circumstances could have been like, I think his real line is, if he was born to a poor peasant or a farmer in China, then I mean, he wouldn't have gone on to become what he is now. So yeah, it is a game of chance, but that's where Robert talked about. He said that, well, yeah, I got lucky, but now I get to help others. And how can I change their lives? Now, Robert challenged one perspective that I've held for a while, and you've heard me say this, where I've almost poo-pooed the skill and learning Power BI, and I mean, not really, but I've questioned it, and I've said, well, what use is learning Power BI? Because I've seen people get really good at Power BI, but not be able to make an impact, not be able to create a good life, a good income, a good career for themselves. I have seen that, and that's true, right? So of course we've been working with people at kind of higher levels. Again, my goal is not to teach people Power BI. My goal is to change their lives, and I'm not saying Power BI like isn't needed. Don't learn Power BI, but I know that that isn't enough. And again, I mean, sometimes different perspectives can both be valid. And Robert passionately talked about this idea of skill and how skill is more valuable than anything else. And he said, Avi, I mean, if I had an option like, the blue pill and the red pill from the Matrix, I'm like, oh, here you can have the skill, and here you have, I don't know, $10,000 or some amount of money. And he said, that I would always go for the skill, no matter the amount of money. And I kind of get it. Frankly, I don't fully get it. Again, I mean, our perspectives, our worldview, our mindset, or belief, whatever you want to call it, right, are really kind of shaped by our past. And that's not the only thing, right? I mean, you get a choice as well. You can choose to shape your mindset, but that's a big part. And I haven't had Robert's experiences, but he definitely spoke very passionately about it. And he said, if you give somebody a skill, it's kind of like, you teach them to fish, you catch a fish for them, or you teach them to fish, right? I think that's what he was talking about. You teach them to fish and they can feed themselves for a lifetime. And again, he's not just looking for himself, like he's not just looking to skill up himself, he's looking outwards and say, hey, how can I help others? All right, folks, so that brings us to Samuel. So Samuel is based out of Nigeria, and yeah, kind of, you're gonna hear the echoes of the same thing, and yeah, so Samuel actually has been working as an independent consultant. He's the one who asked, by the way, on the last Talk Power BI, the question about working on Upwork. So he's been working there successfully, and boy, I mean, he's into Python, he's into machine learning, and that's what I love about what I do, because my students are in a way, kind of beyond me, right? I don't know machine learning. I can start. I don't know where to start. I don't know Python. I don't know the P of Python, right? So yeah, so I get to meet these amazing people who are doing these amazing things. So he's already into amazing stuff, but of course he wants to kind of solidify and kind of as I call the make it a Thor hammer, right? So Power BI, that's the way I see it. That's my Thor hammer. That's my big tool that I go in with. And you can pull in other tools if you need to. So Samuel's focused on that. And again, kind of the similar idea that I talked about with Robert. Samuel talked about how he has grouped together with his friends. And I think they're teaching kind of young kids at school, perhaps. They teach them Python. So yeah, he goes there and teaches them that. So folks, yeah, that's kind of a bit of a story. And again, as I said at the beginning, that we're not just celebrating these 5 folks, and I have no doubt in my mind that when you heard these stories, there's an echo of something in your heart as well. Maybe a part of your story, which has happened or is going to happen, right? Because we don't know, like, I mean, how these paths cross, right? So maybe you saw something today is going to manifest in your life, show up in your life tomorrow. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of it. We'll kind of keep it short today. I guess we'll wrap it out. I didn't want to kind of make it too long, but in closing, I want to talk about kind of the road ahead. So of course, the main goal is that I'm going to keep serving my audience, my community, right? So my success is in their success. It's funny how things become simplified once you take your focus off of yourself. Like, am I good enough? Am I smart enough to who can I serve? And again, it's not like I've done that. I mean, right? It's one of those things like it's you have to keep learning. It's like going to the gym, right? I mean, I have to remind myself of that goal every day. So that's my goal, and of course I'm going to do that through my YouTube channel. But really, the programs is where I really get to work closely with my community. So the Learn Power BI program, that's a starting step. And then we have the advanced Power BI level. Frankly, there's a lot of work to be done on that level, and we do have big plans for that next year. But then we have our pro level programs, and for that there are two paths. One is the kind of the consultant on the entrepreneur side, and the other path, which we're launching in 2021, is what we call the Power BI Pioneer. And these are folks who are inside a company and they're leading the Power BI charge within their company, the leaders within their company. So yeah, we want to support that. So that's kind of the pro level. And again, it's about that level. It's about beyond Power BI. It's not just about the tool. It's about how you leverage the tool. It's about the people skills, the business skills, and all of that, right? So that we've already had for a long time, but of course now we have the Learn Power BI scholarship, and it's a beta. So I'm not gonna think too much. I'm just gonna go with the flow. And it's funny. I mean, I'm supposed to be. Well, I am an analyst. I'm deep into Power BI, but the way I run my business is quite intuitive. Right? So yeah, so I see what I feel pulled towards, and I let that happen. And one line that I use is clarity comes from action, right? So I do have big goals and dreams. I mean, in my mind, I see something really big for this the Learn Power BI scholarship, the 100,000 Feet Charity Foundation, and so forth that I've been working on. But it's okay for it to be fuzzy. In fact, it's good that it's fuzzy because it gives me a chance to fill in the colors. Right? It gives me a chance to kind of innovate and adapt and like, oh yeah, try this and go on the journey and enjoy it. So yeah, I'm not thinking too far ahead, although I do sense something big here as part of this whole program. But we're just gonna go with this group. By the way, this group will be they have each one of them has promised to present a dashboard in March, so look forward to that. And yeah, I look forward to working with this group. So, folks, thank you. This was kind of a different session, but I definitely feel that this yeah. Well, thank you for letting me celebrate this together with you. So I think next Friday we'll be back with our kind of a regular sessions and the Q&A, the dashboard makeover, and so forth. Yeah, and just stay in touch, stay tuned, and you'll keep hearing about what's coming next about all of our programs. All right, folks, I'll catch you next time. Power on.